It's a rainy night in Long Island, and Jack is back. Welcome to another edition of All or Not According to Jack. And looking at this background means only one thing. Time for another episode, an edition of The Formative Years. That's my idea of applause. Anywho, so 1979, very, very interesting year. I really started to come of age in the year of 1979, and there it is. Towards the end of this episode, I actually saw my very first concert in 1979, so we will talk about that towards the end, but let's get right into it. So 1979, let's talk first in this format, notable albums that were released. So and I bought quite a few of these albums. So I'll point them out, the ones that I bought. So the very first one, album by Cheap Trick, Dream Police, an album that I bought. Album by Van Halen, Van Halen 2, another great album that I bought. Somebody get me a doctor. The Human League, Reproduction, Styx, Cornerstone, Jethro Tull, Stormwatch, another great album that I bought. Led Zeppelin finally released another album, In Through the Outdoor. Came with that paper bag. You take the paper bag off, you got the guy in the bar with, looks like somebody scratched the album cover, or watercolors, or whatever you want to call it. Mick Taylor, former rhythm guitarist of the Rolling Stones, put out a self-titled album. This was a very interesting album. Joe Jackson, Look Sharp. His first album, got two white shoes that come to little points. A friend of mine convinced me to buy that album, and you want to know something? I think it was like one of my first forays into new wave, and I kind of liked it. Robert Fripp of King Crimson, Exposure. By the way, I did buy Look Sharp by Joe Jackson. Kiss finally came out with an album, Dynasty. Years later, I would learn that there was real turmoil in the band, and that they basically brought in a ghost drummer named Anton Fig, who performed on Ace Frehley's solo album. And Peter Criss only performed on one song on the whole album. Little did we know. I did buy that album, by the way. Chicago came out with an album, Chicago 13. And as they would say, they weren't happy with the album, and that, according to them, it hit the wall at 750,000 copies. Kool and the Gang, Ladies' Night. Then this other very interesting new wave band came out with their debut album, the B-52s. Okay, then this next band, The Knack, Get the Knack. I still remember all the newspaper articles back in the day. The Knack are going to be the next Beatles. So what did they do? They put out, so that first album, The Knack, was a great album, did very well, in the album charts and the album sales. Their second album, What the Little Girls Understand, bombed beyond compare. Never to be heard from again. Another album that I bought, Aerosmith, Night in the Ruts. Little would I find out later, Joe Perry left Aerosmith midway through production. AC/DC, Highway to Hell. Michael Jackson, Off the Wall. Devo, Duty Now for the Future. The Cars, Candio. Foreigner, Head Games. Sid Vicious, Sid Sings. Imagine that. Nick Lowe, Labor of Lust. Mr. Cruel to Be Kind. Dire Straits came out with a second album, Communique. BTO, Bachman Turner Overdrive. Rock and Roll Nights. Electric Light Orchestra, Discovery. Here's a band that I mentioned in my last video, Molly Hatchet, with the album Flirtin' with Disaster. An album that I bought, album and a band that I came to love. The Village People, Go West. I hope they went so far west they ended up in the Pacific Ocean. Steve Hackett, Special Mornings, formerly of Genesis. Talking Heads, Fear of Music, starting to get their sea legs, so to speak, starting to get more popular. Band that I never really cared for, Journey, Evolution. Kansas, Monolith. Triumph, Just a Game. Continuing right along. Scorpions, Love Drive. Blue Oyster Cult, Mirrors. UK, and I can't spell. Night After Night. I spelled it night and for night. Rick Wakeman, formerly, or maybe did a solo album. Rick Wakeman of Yes, Rhapsodies. The Little River Band, First Under the Wire. Here's a monumental album, Supertramp, Breakfast in America. ZZ Top, DeGuello, Cheap Sunglasses. 38 Special, Rockin' Into the Night. Frank Zappa, Joe's Garage, Acts 2 and 3. The Police, Regatta de Blanc. Pat Benatar, In the Heat of the Night. The Eagles, album that I bought, The Long Run, or as they would say about it later, The Long One. Album that took too freaking long to make and wasn't as good as Hotel California. Judas Fucking Priest, my band. First album I ever bought by the Priest, Unleashed in the East, or some would later call it Unleashed in the Studio. But a great killer live set. Again, the first Priest album I ever bought, the first of many I would buy. Whitesnake, Love Hunter, Zooksy and the Banshees, Join Hands. The Clash, London Calling, UFO, band that I would grow to like and appreciate years later, Strangers in the Night. Blondie, Eat to the Beat. Another band that I didn't give it its highlight, but I did buy this album, Pink Floyd, The Wall. Motorhead, Overkill. New England, self-titled album. Saxon's self-titled album. Another band that I mentioned in my last video, Blackfoot, with an album called Strikes. The Who, they made a movie and a soundtrack album called The Kids Are All Right, a movie that I saw, that I loved, and had me rolling with laughter. That's how great it was. Okay, moving right along, a band that I didn't really know at the time, but I would grow to love later on, Accept, self-titled album. Next, The Kinks, Low Budget. I'm on a low budget. Okay, an album that I would buy, Charlie Daniels, Million Mile Reflections. Simple Minds, Life in a Day. Fleetwood Mac would release a double album called Tusk. Album, one of those overproduced, took too long, and didn't live up to the hype albums. Rainbow, new lead singer, new album called Down to Earth, their only album with Graham Bonnet on lead vocals. Donna Summer, Bad Girls. And last but not least, Squeeze, Cool for Cats. Okay, notable pop hits of 1979. And again, I mixed a whole bunch of genres, grabbed a whole bunch of songs, just to, mix things up a bit. This is a country singer that my wife likes, Barbara Mandrell. If loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right. I actually used to like her or watch her show. Her two sisters were very hot back in the day. Notable pop hit, title track of the Eagles album, The Long Run. Nicolette Larson, Gonna Take a Lot of Love. McFadden and Whitehead, Ain't No Stopping Us Now. Probably one of the last hits of the disco era. Queen with a great rockabilly type song, Crazy Little Thing Called Love. Little River Band, Lonesome Loser. Commodores, Sail On. Just watched an episode of not America's Got Talent, but what's that other that show, with the singers, but whatever. Lionel Richie was on it, and boy, did he age. Maybe it'll come to me. Show's not worth remembering. Sister Sledge, We Are Family. That would be the Pittsburgh Pirates theme song as they marched to the World Series in 1979 and won. The Clash, London Calling. The Ramones, I Want to Be Sedated. Captain and Tennille, Do That to Me One More Time. Do what? Cook me dinner? Bob Seger, Old Time Rock and Roll, great song. Linda Ronstadt, what a very clever title this is. Ooh, Baby, Baby. AC/DC, Highway to Hell. Charlie Daniels Band, a song that I mentioned in my last video and made my top 20, The Devil Went Down to Georgia. Electric Light Orchestra, Don't Bring Me Down. Good song, but they repeat the chorus way too much. And what has it got, like 4 verses? Damn. Cheap Trick, finally hitting it big in the Billboard Top 20 with the live version of I Want You to Want Me. Van Halen, also hitting it big on the Billboard Top 20 for the first time with the hit song Dance the Night Away. Okay. This big #1 song by a band called M Pop Music, another one-hit wonder. Joe Jackson, Is She Really Going Out with Him? Pretty Women Out Walking with Gorillas Down My Street. Talking Heads, Life During Wartime, great song. Gloria Gaynor with the #1 song, I Will Survive. Another one of those wet songs you hear at weddings all the time and in karaoke. Elton John, Mama Can't Buy You Love. Dire Straits, Sultans of Swing, released in 1978, but a hit in 1979. Toto with the song 99. Patrick Hernandez, Born to Be Alive. Another one of those end of the disco era songs. Nick Lowe, Cruel to Be Kind. Kiss decided to put their own spin on the disco world with I Was Made for Loving You, Baby. We'll talk more about them later. Judas Priest didn't have a big hit in the US on the Billboard charts, but they hit it big in the UK with this song, Take on the World. The Buggles, and this title would be very true. Video killed the radio star. MTV was right around the corner, folks. Robert Palmer, great song. Doctor, Doctor, give me the news. I've got a bad case of loving you. Rainbow, Since You've Been Gone. The Village People, YMCA. The Sugar Hill Gang, hit number 36 on the Billboard's chart. First rap song to ever hit Billboard's top 40. Song called Rapper's Delight. And then Chic, Good Times. Okay, so what I did was I took a bunch of these bands and I kind of put their hits together. We call these busy pop hit artists or multiple pop hit artists of that year. So Supertramp had 3. Goodbye Stranger, The Logical Song, Take the Long Way Home. My fellow Long Islander, Mr. Billy Joel. Because you had to be a big shot, didn't you? Big Shot. Second song, Honesty. Third song, probably my favorite, My Life. The Chorus, 3 hit songs. Good Times Roll, Just What I Needed. And then off of their second album, Candy-O, Let's Go. Michael Jackson, we mentioned one earlier. Next you have Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Rock With You. The Police, finally hitting it big with a couple hit songs. Can't Stand Losing You. And like I said, I can't sing it any better than Eddie Murphy. Roxanne, not even gonna try that. Blondie, One Way or Another, Heart of Glass. Funny story about Heart of Glass. I once had a friend who had his 10-speed bike, and on the back of the 10-speed bike, you had those little, what they call rat traps that, you could put luggage and, or small little luggage on the back of your bicycle rat trap. So this genius friend of mine goes in, buys the single, Blondie, Heart of Glass, puts the 45 single in the rat trap, snaps it closed, shatters the freaking record into a million pieces, goes back, yeah, I'll take another copy. Way to go, Jeff. Anne Murray, You Needed Me. And I Just Fall in Love Again. Earth, Wind and Fire, great song. After the Love Is Gone. Another one of those end of the disco era songs, Boogie Wonderland. Kenny Rogers, with his little crossover from country to pop. The Gambler, You Got to Know When to Hold 'Em, Know When to Fold 'Em. And then You Decorated My Life. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, finally hitting it big, the song Refugee. And song that I always liked, Don't Do Me Like That. Last but not least, Donna Summer, Dim All the Lights, People. And the song Hot Stuff. Good songs. Okay, next, let's talk about the Grammys of 1979. Album of the Year. Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. Record of the year. My man Billy Joel, Just the Way You Are. Song of the year. Billy Joel, Just the Way You Are. Best new artist, A Taste of Honey. Another one-hit wonder. Best pop vocal performance. And another, my wife is a fan of her too, Anne Murray. She would, many years later, we would select her song as our wedding song. Can I have this dance for the rest of my life? Best pop vocal performance, the Bee Gees, the Brothers Gibb, for the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. Best pop instrumental performance, Chuck Mangione, Children of Sanchez. Didn't he win it in 78 also? Maybe. New TV shows of 1979. Delta House. A bad, bad remake of the movie Animal House. Didn't hold a candle to it. How do you go from John Belushi to Josh Mostel? I'll never know. Show only lasted about, I think, not even a full season. The Dukes of Hazzard. I didn't care for it, but my brother liked that show. The Ropers, spin-off of Three's Company. The Facts of Life takes place in Peekskill, New York, where I used to live from 89 to 94, 95. Heart to Heart. Benson. Three's Company became Three's a Crowd, but the luster was gone. Show lasted one season and kaputski. Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. Another show that basically ran its course. All in the Family became Archie Bunker's place, but by that point, sorry, not funny at all. And died a very ignominious death, so to speak. Trapper John M.D. Knots Landing. Okay, deaths in 1979. Sid Vicious, formerly of the Sex Pistols. Minnie Riperton, very sad, died of cancer. And of course, even sadder, John Glasscock, bassist of Jethro Tull, died in late 1979. Okay. Movies of 1979. And by the time I reached that age, I did get to a lot of these movies in the theater. So as I rattle them off, I will tell you if I saw them or not. There was Kramer versus Kramer. I actually saw that on cable. Amityville Horror. Not only did I read the book, I also saw that. Very scary. Living on Long Island as I do, I went and drove by the actual house in Amityville. Rocky 2, saw that as well. These three movies I didn't, no, I did see one of them. Apocalypse Now I didn't see. Star Trek, the motion picture, I did see that. Alien, I did not see. 10, I saw that movie. A 14-year-old sitting in the second row seeing Bo Derek almost nude. Something else. The Jerk. Saw that movie. Very funny movie. Another Bond movie. Moonraker. I saw that movie as well. This movie I did not see. The Muppet Movie. Didn't see Caligula or The China Syndrome. These next four movies I did see. Escape from Alcatraz. Clint Eastwood. Great suspenseful movie. The Frisco Kid with Gene Wilder. The Great Santini with Robert Duvall. Here's a funny story. So I saw the second Austin Powers movie. I can't think of the name of it right now. Oh, The Spy Who Shagged Me. So there's a funny scene in The Spy Who Shagged Me where Dr. Evil takes this inflatable ball and he hits this Robert Wagner lookalike. I think it was Rob Lowe who played Robert Wagner in the second movie. So Dr. Evil takes the inflatable ball and starts hitting him in the head with it and says, "Cry, cry." I was the only person in the theater who got that joke and laughed at it. That was actually a scene from The Great Santini, where Robert Duvall takes the basketball and I'm sorry, I forget what the kid's name is from Caddyshack, hits him in the head. Cry, cry. Funny stuff. I mentioned that I saw The Kids Are All Right. Didn't see the Mad Max or The Main Event or Manhattan, one of those Woody Allen movies. I did see Meatballs, Bill Murray movie. I think he was the only big name in that movie. One of those B movies, summer B movies, but all the teenage kids liked it. It was about, being camp counselors and getting all your hormones out of balance and teen love at its best. Next movie that I saw, Monty Python's Life of Brian. Now this is a freaking funny story. So I had this friend, same friend who got me into Kiss and got me into Judas Priest and got me into Joe Jackson. I went with him. His name is Chris, by the way. I went with him to see Monty Python's Life of Brian. Now, later on, I would learn that he lied to his father. He told him he was going to see another movie. So the father comes and picks us up from the movie theater, discovers that his son had seen Life of Brian. He's like, "Oh, I want you to go to confession. Jewish people, Protestants, Catholics, everybody was protesting that movie. How could you go and watch that?" You must have told him 10 times, "You're going to confession tomorrow." I prefer to remember the last scene of that movie with Eric Idle up on the cross singing, "Always look on the bright side of life." A more serious movie that I saw, Norma Ray, Sally Fields, very good movie. A football movie starring Nick Nolte, North Dallas 40. I saw that movie as well. Surprisingly, I never saw Quadrophenia. I never saw Rock and Roll High School. I did see The Wanderers, good movie. And the Oscar goes to Kramer versus Kramer, Meryl Streep and Dustin Hoffman. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the concerts that I went to in 1979. This was the first year that I was old enough to go to concerts, and I went without my parents. First concert I ever went to, Cheap Trick, April of 1979, at this 3,000 seat hall in Hempstead, New York, called the Calderone Concert Hall. Funny thing about the Calderone Concert Hall, I think it's now a Baptist church, and right down the street, my wife and I bought our first Honda at the Honda dealership. The street is known for all of its car dealerships. But another thing, a couple of things worthy of note for this Cheap Trick concert. Cheap Trick had just hit it big with their album Live at Budokan. So I got to see them at the best possible time at their absolute, what I think was their high watermark. Robin Zander was, at his peak vocally. He still had his blonde hair, wasn't wearing that hat to hide any bald spots or anything. Tom Peterson didn't look like he was 100 years old. Rick Nielsen never changes. Always the same, parading his 50 guitars out on stage. They had this band opening for them called the Atlantics. Little did I know at the time, but Judas Priest guitarist Glenn Tipton's brother was in that band. Funny. So first arena concert I ever saw at Nassau Coliseum, September 1st, 1979. Kiss with very special guest, Judas Priest. This was actually the first time I ever heard of them. I was looking. So Kiss had played Madison Square Garden that summer, and I was waiting for them to announce, more concerts. So finally, they announced, that they were coming to the Coliseum. So in Coliseum in September of '79, I saw it in the newspaper Newsday with special guest Judas Priest. I'm like, who the hell are they? I was hoping they'd have Cheap Trick or some other known band, but come to find out, they were really good, and I grew to really like them, and they surpassed Kiss as my favorite band. Good stuff. 1 month later, I would see my third concert, Jethro Tull on the Stormwatch tour, October '79, Nassau Coliseum. Their opener was UK. Again, very sadly, John Glasscock was no longer with them. He was in poor health. They brought in Tony Williams to replace him on bass. Another notable thing about that concert, about a week before, they actually had to postpone that concert a week because 2 weeks prior, Ian Anderson played a show at Madison Square Garden, and toward the end of the concert, he had one of those stages that come out to a walkway so he could walk out closer to the crowd. And I'm about to hold back a sneeze, but so a fan threw a rose to Ian. Unfortunately, the thorn of the rose hit him in the eye. Unreal. So I come to find out from this friend of mine, Chris, oh, your Tull concert's postponed. I'm like, I thought he was bullshitting me, but turns out he wasn't. They did have to postpone the concert for a week. Thankfully, they rescheduled it, honored the tickets. I went, and lifetime of memory, seeing Tull for the first time. Ian with his original voice before his vocal problems of the mid to late '80s. Last but not least, I saw a second concert at the Calderon Concert Hall later in October, Dire Straits. They had just released the album Communique. So that was the year 1979. This is Jack Toledano. Jack Toledano, speaking of All or Nada, according to Jack. So this shirt that I'm wearing, just to tell you a little bit about it, my lodge, the Odd Fellows, we do a lot of work, a lot of fundraising for autism. And we sold these shirts to $25 a pop to try and raise money for autism awareness. We hold a bowling event every year. That had to be postponed due to the weather and a couple of other unforeseen circumstances. So doing our good deed, as the Boy Scouts say, do a good turn daily. This is, again, Jack Toledano. If you like this show, please subscribe. Please put your comments in the comments section. Tell me about your memories of 1979. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to chat with you about them. Have a good one, everybody. Good night.